4, get my shoes and out the door. 5, I'm alive. 6, 7, 8, feeling great. 9, gonna shine, life is good. I'm doing fine. 10, gonna do it right and do it again, yeah. I look into the sky with all the beautiful color, but there's more than just for me, so gonna share it with another. I got to show, to give, let out. I want to sing and shout. Take a look and see a beautiful morning.
Been in here and people are roaring with laughter, so.
It's a dirty show, though.
Well, it's clean dirt.
You have here the best of the best.
Yes.
So we have many celebrities here. The Harley Madison come over here, and Usher come over here many often, and the Paris Hilton come here.
Boy, I'm dating myself, but it's okay. Nobody else will. Oh.
That's so Vegas.
It's pretty amazing when you consider that 7 years ago, we didn't have the treatments we have now. We cure 80% of children with cancer. If you think about that, I mean, go back 50 years, we were curing 20 to 30%. This is the miracle story of modern medicine. We understand what makes this cancer tick. And of course, without donors from around the world, this just couldn't happen. And there's one thing we're focused on here at St. Jude, and that's beating this thing.
Welcome to That's So Vegas. I'm your host, Christina Keller. I'm here, and I always love saying this, in downtown Las Vegas, in the famous Las Vegas Arts District. And I have somebody sitting here with me in the studio. I'm so thrilled to have you here. Musical director of many talents, and just going to throw some names out like Clint Holmes, Jarrett and Raja, Jeffrey Neiman. Welcome to That's So Vegas.
Thank you. Great to be here.
It is just divine to have you here. There's so many things I want to talk to you about and so many things I want to ask you about. As musical director, there's a tremendous amount of responsibility, I would think, that comes along with that, but also the creativity and the... Tell us a little bit about how you came to be a musical director. What is a little bit of your background?
Well, you know, I started as a musician like anyone else. And I'm from Nevada, so I was kind of born into the lounges and the showrooms.
Reno area, you said?
In Reno, right. So, you know, by the time you're 16, you're already playing at Harrah's, and you're playing at all the, traveling here to Vegas. And so, you know, you're in bands and you're doing, and before you know it, somebody will see you while you're performing, and they'll say, hey, have you ever done this or done that? And in my case, they would say something like, I really like your playing, and do you do any arrangements? Musical arranging.
Now, were you playing guitar?
I started as a drummer.
Drummer.
Right? I play guitar, drums. I was a drummer all the way through high school.
You do so many things. You sing too, and we're going to do a little clip in the second segment, but we'll do that later. So you kind of evolved.
But I kind of evolved. I noticed when I was about 14 or 15 that when all the record albums, the people producing them and the people writing most of the material were the piano players. They seemed to be the ones, and it made sense to me because harmonically, the piano really dictates a lot. Keyboards, I shouldn't say piano, whether it's synthesizers, keyboards, whatever.
Right. 88 keys, aren't there?
But it's so all of a sudden you get an offer and someone will say, you want to do an arrangement for me. So an arrangement for those who don't know what arrangement is, you have the record version, right? So it's just like the record, which is like what most people do. You'll go in and you'll hear them sing it and play it just like the record.
Right, because the public's familiar with that. Yeah.
I've always gone the opposite way, which is I'm not interested in doing it like the record. Right? Now, not everyone can do this. Not everyone, and I'm saying not everyone can arrange, but not every band or performer wants to do an arrangement. They want to do it just like the record because it is familiar.
Right.
But I'm more into making the artists that I work with very individual, and so they have their own style. And I want them to sing the song a very different way. And I want to create a different way I approach it musically, and they sing it differently because they're hearing it musically different,
right?
Which ultimately the audience then will respond in a way which is like, wow, I never heard it like that before. That's the response you're looking for.
Interesting. So a studio recording would be different than a live recording, or are they the same, or is it always different when you're live as opposed to?
You're live, you do it one way, and there's great live recordings of people.
Right.
But the studio is a different animal. The studio is, you're looking for the best production, right? The use of sounds, the use of instruments, are you going to use backup vocals? And everything is very controlled. In a live situation, it's like what we're doing here, right?
Yeah.
This is all live, and so it is what it is, and it's wonderful.
Right.
But it would be very different if you were doing, for instance, a movie. This is exactly where you're going to cross your leg when we speak. This is exactly, so the studio
scripted
is absolutely, the music dictates everything. Live, you get the more improvisational approach.
Well, you've probably seen a lot of advancements in the technological aspect of music mixing and things of that nature. And music took off in different ways. Like, remember when Cher came and did that electronic song, and everybody was, when she was that, did she synthesize her voice? Is that what happened with that?
Yes.
And do you take advantage of things like that in your craft?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I have a recording studio.
Right.
And I've recorded dozens of CDs for artists, written for them, produced them. And it's funny because of my generation, there was no synthesizers. When I was growing up, there was nothing. Right. An electric piano, which is called a Fender Rhodes. Right. It's an electric piano. And Stevie Wonder was playing something called a clavinet. Right. Which is, like in Superstition, you hear that sound. And so I kind of made the transition from being a piano player to now crossing over into synthesizers and electronics.
Kind of going from a purist to another level.
Yeah, and I started, though, as a jazz player.
Oh, nice.
And I realized quickly that wasn't going to satisfy me, because in the jazz world, when I was growing up, the songs were just, they weren't doing it for me. They were very one-dimensional, and as soon as you play, okay, here's the melody, blah, 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 blah. Then you sit around while the sax player takes a 10-minute solo and the trumpet player takes a 10-minute solo.
Right.
And I feel bad for the singers, because they sing a verse and a chorus, and then they may as well go off stage for a half hour.
That's true. And I do like jazz. I like soft jazz. I'm not into the really, avant-garde and the bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
So a lot of your work, there's the mechanical aspect, but there's also the creative aspect.
Right.
So, and you it sounds to me like you weave the two together, right?
Right.
I mean, you have to have I would imagine there's some limitations within the mechanical end of it and production. So what percentage is creative and what percentage is mechanical? Could you still survive in your craft without the mechanical? That's a good question.
Yes, okay. You can. You can. I think that anyone in my generation who didn't cross over into, the technology, they had no chance at a career. They had no shot.
Right.
If you were only a pianist and you didn't start learning about synthesizers, you were done.
Dead in the water.
Right.
Yeah.
And then not only was that happening, but at the same time, like I would say in 1990, home computers were just beginning, right? And that changed the entire ballgame for people that were in the arts, especially the arts, because they were coming out with things like Photoshop. Right.
Yep.
They came out with, so that everyone could have a recording studio now in their bedroom.
That's so true.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
And if you didn't jump on that train, just like the synthesizers 10 years earlier, if you didn't make that transition, once again, that was another reason why you're done. You can't survive anymore.
Wow.
So I found twice in my life, in the 80s and the 90s, but I welcomed it.
Right, you're highly adaptable, it seems. I mean, obviously, and you have a real passion, and time's flying. I have to give a quick shout out to my sponsor. We are going to be right back because we have so much more to talk about. A quick shout out to the Red Roof Inn on Paradise Road, across from the Hard Rock Hotel, pet friendly, free Wi-Fi and continental breakfast for guests. Again, they're my sponsor, but don't go away. We're going to be back with Jeffrey Neiman talking more about music in Las Vegas and some of the biggest talents we have here in Las Vegas. So we'll be right back. Well, hey there. Welcome to That's So Vegas. This is our new studio in the famous Las Vegas Arts District, downtown Las Vegas. We're here to rock your world. And I was going to ask you how it felt to be Breaking Good here at the Bellagio for the National Center.
What you did.
Your last CD was My Secret Life. I wanted to ask you what your secrets were. A high five to CR Realty Services, who opened the door for That's So Vegas here in the famous Las Vegas Arts District. Tune in and turn on with us in downtown Las Vegas. This is where the action is, and That's So Vegas. Welcome back to That's So Vegas. I'm your host, Christina Keller. Yes, I am here in the fabulous Las Vegas Arts District. Bada bing. Just have to love it. I love downtown, and I'm here with the fantastic Jeffrey Neiman, musical director to the stars, not just here in Las Vegas. And we had mentioned in our previous segment, Clint Holmes. Everybody loves Clint. Jarrett and Raja, who just opened a show at Hooters. And
Right.
I know you had a big hand in all of their productions, but you've also worked in Hollywood, which everybody's fascinated with Hollywood, and written a ton of actual orchestrated symphonic pieces, right? Can you
Right.
tell us a little
Right.
bit about that and what goes into that, and perhaps what one of your most challenging or favorite Hollywood type productions was or is?
Well, you know, I had the good fortune. One of my friends' father was Jerry Goldsmith, who's a very famous Hollywood composer. He's dead now, but he did Planet of the Apes, all the Planet of the Apes movies.
Wow.
Star Trek movies. You know, he was one of the guys, and so I started doing some ghostwriting. Now, ghostwriting means that he has a team of ghostwriters, and you get together, and he gives you assignments like, I want you to do these scenes.
Okay.
I want you to write. And we already know the theme, the general theme of the movie. So, but the deal is that you never get credit for any of it.
Right.
Everything's written by him, right? And he has a team of ghostwriters. Your
Right,
name will
yeah.
appear nowhere.
Right, yeah.
And-
it could get kind of crowded
Well,
if you had to, but
and
yeah.
they want the credit, and then they've earned it. They've earned the credit.
course.
And so not long after that, he really liked the work I was doing, and I started a partnership with his son. And he started handing us movies that he didn't want. So now he was handing us our own movies.
Very nice.
And we started doing them. And they were B movies at first. Hollywood Hot Tubs. I don't know if you remember that movie or not.
No, missed that one,
You know
sorry.
who was in that, actually? Sandy Hackett
Oh, no kidding.
starred in that.
Oh,
one. Yeah. And a bunch of slasher,
Right.
horror films.
I do like kind of horror sometimes, yeah. So,
But it's interesting work because, like, I had mentioned, I was started as a jazz guy. Then the minute that I heard Steely Dan and Chicago
Yeah.
and the Doobie Brothers and Tower of Power,
Yes.
Gino Vanelli.
I interviewed him in the 70s. I have a
telling
photo
you.
of me with him. I'll have to email it to you.
These guys were all doing jazz,
Right.
but in a different way.
Right.
And it pulled my ear. I heard the jazz part of it, but it was funk and R&B and rock.
Right.
And very sophisticated approaches, and it pulled me out of jazz immediately.
Yeah.
Now my other friends were pure jazzers. But anyway, it gave me a real sense of different styles of music, and my family, my mother always had listened to Broadway and Barbra Streisand, Johnny Mathis, and so from that I was getting orchestral because the arrangements were always very big, string sections.
Right.
So before I knew it, I had all this stuff going through my head.
That's a lot of stuff there, Jeffrey. I
Yeah.
mean, when you think about it,
Yeah.
what's the biggest orchestration you've worked with? How many pieces?
I think 60.
Ah, wow.
Yeah,
That's
and-
a lot.
And writing for 60 pieces is amazing because
can't-
people don't really understand when they see a symphony. But, every instrument has to be written for, from a flute to a tuba, to the fourth trombone player over there,
Exactly.
to the oboe, to the
Right.
harp.
To the guy on the little
And you have to
triangle.
hear all this in your head. It's like it's like very much like an architect.
Right.
You're designing something,
Exactly.
and you already know in your mind what it's going to look like when it's done.
But it's the process of building and getting
Right.
it.
So
there.
I hear everything in my head,
Oh boy.
and I just have to just let it out and start writing.
So, where do you approach the musicians? I mean, how do you inspire them? Do you write all the sheet music for each
yeah.
instrument? Oh, that's a tremendous labor of love, I would say, and talent. And when you think of Mozart and Beethoven and the greats in the back in the day, you know, when they were building the orchestras too.
Right.
I love your analogy about being an architect. The Pillars of the Earth is a book I just finished. I reread it again because I quit smoking and I had to have something to fix my mind on. But you kind of remind me of the Pillars of the Earth, just having that vision. And you carry that over to the people that you're working with, like, say, Clint Holmes. And again, we did mention, because we love our homeboys, don't we?
Yeah.
Love them to pieces. We're so blessed to have so much talent here in this town, and that includes you. And Jarrett and Raja, we're so thrilled. They were my previous guests to have you as part of the team, and you do some original compositions as well. We have a little clip actually that you're sharing with us, and thank you for that. We're going to roll that before we go to commercial, and then we're going to come back for a third segment. But and this just fascinates me too. When I heard it, not only are you composing the music and you wrote the lyrics, but you're singing it as well. So where do you stop, and where do you? I guess you don't stop anywhere.
I like to do it all. I really
guess
do.
You do, and you do it so well. So we're going to roll that.
Okay.
A quick shout out to the Red Roof Inn, and then we're going to come back and wrap up the show with some really interesting stuff and some more insight into that wonderful, magnificent brain of yours.
Thank you.
Enjoy this, people, and stay tuned, because we'll be right back with segment 3 of That's So Vegas.
I keep searching for a reason. And how long must I keep lying to myself? Continue hoping for an answer from within. So many questions hiding from my sins. If this is love, then why won't my heart tell me so? If this is love, I shouldn't want to run. This is love, then how can I feel so alone? Familiar pain sometimes almost makes me feel alive. But if this is love, my heart must learn to hide.
As a mother, you don't want to have to worry about this bill is coming, but then she needs this chemo. That's a decision you shouldn't have to make.
At St. Jude, a family never sees a bill at all, not one bill. It's like the world has been lifted off of your shoulders.
The treatment doesn't get any better than what you receive at St. Jude. It saved my life. It saved my daughter's life. It saved our family.
Welcome back to That's So Vegas. I certainly hope you enjoyed that clip as much as I did. It was an original composition by my guest, Jeffrey Neiman. Are you related to Neiman Marcus? I just had to throw that out there.
Actually, you've been mispronouncing my name the entire time.
Nyman.
It is Nyman.
Okay.
Because the Neimans, Neiman Marcus and Leroy Neiman, very famous artists.
Yes.
They're the rich ones.
Okay.
But I'm a Nyman.
Okay, well, maybe we can fix that in post-production. But it's Nyman. Okay, now I've got it.
I answer to either.
Yeah. So to be rich, you have to be a Neiman, and to be just a great, wonderful, talented, incredible composer, you're Nyman.
You said that.
And we'll stick with that because I really enjoyed that composition of yours.
Thank
and
you.
it's just perfect proof how multi-talented you are. We've talked about, you know, writing and conducting these huge orchestra pieces, 60 pieces, and from the flute to the, timbales, I mean, the violins and everything. It just blows my mind. I mean, it's amazing. I'm a frustrated musician at heart myself, but I like, too, how you were mentioning that you got pulled from just straight jazz with the greats of our past, like Gino Vanelli and people that, you know, we just love.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about how you think the Las Vegas scene has changed, I would say in the past 10 years. You know, we went through the ups and downs where with the taxes they were throwing out there, we stopped hiring live musicians on the Strip because of the entertainment taxes, and that kind of put a slump. Did the industry do anything, or
I'll tell you what, you know, I would say I'm one of the more fortunate ones you can ever imagine. I'm so lucky that when I was coming up and playing in the lounges, there was beautiful lounges. There were beautiful lounges in every hotel.
I remember those days.
And it wasn't just a little lounge or a bar and a lounge. They were beautiful lounges. And each lounge had at least 2, maybe 3 alternating great lounge acts. So I was in a band. Now, you probably don't remember the name, but a lot of people from this area would remember the name. It was called Friends.
Okay.
F-R-E-N-Z.
Right.
And we were like best friends with Santa Fe, and it was Santa Fe and us.
I remember them, yes,
right?
I
And
do
this is back
remember.
in the 80s.
Yeah.
Right? And the lounge scene was just exploding. I remember back then, you would get your entire year schedule. At that time, we were working for let's say the Hiltons. Right, so the Flamingo Hilton, the International Hilton, the Hilton in Reno, and then we would go, and so that would be 35 weeks a year right there.
And you would get your schedule in advance.
Oh,
amazing.
You knew, and then the rest of the time you'd spend probably 12 to 15 weeks in Atlantic City.
Yeah.
So our year, I mean, I was never on the hard road. I was in Reno, Tahoe, Vegas, Atlantic City, period.
Right.
For at least 2 weeks at a time, staying in the beautiful hotel.
Right.
And I'm talking about from the time I was 18. When I was 18, I actually was the musical director for Jerry Van Dyke.
No kidding.
That was my first one.
That was your first?
My very first job.
What a way to come out of the gate.
I know. But the scene now has changed in a way where I don't know how the next generation, I don't know how they're doing it, how they're actually forging a career. I was able to work as much as I wanted.
Right.
Some 45 weeks a year. We would take off about 7 weeks, you know. And constantly playing and getting better at your craft.
Exactly.
And playing to great audiences that appreciated all kinds of music.
Right.
And what were we playing? Al Jarreau, Steely Dan, Gino Vanelli, you know, Doobie Brothers, Kenny Loggins.
Right.
The list goes on and on.
Right.
We had so much music
And
to
that's
play.
exactly, I love the way that you described that, and it just went off in my head because there's the beauty in it. There's a composition, the different elements that you bring in. It isn't all electronic. It isn't all this. It isn't all just a steady beat, you know, of the drums or something. So.
And you had to play.
That's a good point.
There were no tracks.
Right.
And it's funny because once rock and roll started to take a back seat, rock and roll was typically 3 chords. Right? It just was. I mean, fun. But when that next generation of people came along and they started fusing together the jazz and the funk and the R&B, Toto is a great example.
Love Toto. They're in town.
You had to play. And you better be a good player because that's what separated now the great lounge acts from the ones who couldn't handle it. They couldn't step up.
Yeah.
You had to have, the band that I was in, we had 5-part vocal harmonies.
Nice.
Everyone played 2 or 3 instruments, and it was incredible. It was incredible.
It really was, and I do miss it. I still listen to the 70s and the 80s, you know, on the radio, and there's some cool stuff in the 90s and the millenniums and things of that nature. But I miss the harmonies. I miss the a lot of the vocals, and again all the instrumentation. But also, there was always a story behind the song.
Right.
I mean, there was a broken heart, similar to the song that you composed. I mean, it's talking about love and this and that and the other and life in general. So. The Doobies and all of them, you followed a road with them, and it was an emotional, and it was and music does bring that out in you, you know.
Nowadays, it's there's nothing.
Right.
And I shouldn't say there's nothing because that's not being fair, but the music is all electronic, and very one-dimensional, and you're lucky if there's one lounge act playing in every fourth hotel.
Exactly, and I really miss those days. We have the Smith Center now, which is really wonderful.
I opened it.
The cabaret. Yeah. I do. I remember that. I was with the media, the opening of it. It's really just been a badge for Las Vegas. And Clint Holmes is a guest there a lot. There's a lot of. You've worked with just about everybody in Las Vegas, haven't you?
I really have.
And
this new CD. That you heard that song that's one of the songs off it. But this was kind of me using a lot of my friends that I've had over the years, and wonderful singers.
So it's a collaborative effort.
And song after song is a different singer that is top notch in the community.
Oh,
and some of it's original material, and some of it are songs that I did very special arrangements for them. And so it's.
What's the name of the CD, and where can we buy it?
CD is not done.
It's still in the mix.
10 out of 12 songs done.
Nice. And how long does a project like that take, since we're on this subject?
It has taken a year so far. So far. It's a long process.
There's a lot of fine-tuning, I'm sure. And
scheduling.
I was going to say, everybody has their gigs, and they have their life, and you have your life and your gigs, too. You know, you're just a busy man. But I'm just, like I was saying earlier, it's just a blessing to have you.
Thank you so much.
I can't even imagine doing what you do, and just I can tell the joy just rolls off of you, that how much you love it. The music is absolutely in every cell of your body.
Absolutely.
And working with the different instruments, and I wish we had more time. I mean, I wish we were in your studio. I'd love to come see how you pull this magic and weave this all together.
We'll do it.
I would really be thrilled to do that. It's time to say bye-bye again. I can't believe it. I want to give another shout out. I think I missed my sponsor the last segment. I was having such a good time. But they'll forgive me. They've been my sponsor for over a year. The Red Roof Inn on Paradise, pet friendly, close to the Strip, close to the airport. They're just friendly, good people, free Wi-Fi, continental breakfast, and all that good stuff. Stay tuned, because next week we're going to go on the road. We're going to be going out to Pahrump and doing some vineyards and a couple of things out there. Biker bars. I don't know if you're into biker bars, but you never know.
Never know. I don't know.
There could be a 5-piece band out there.
That's true.
See you next week. Thank you again, Jeffrey Nyman, for being on my show.
Thank you. My pleasure.
It was honestly a pleasure. Thank you.
1, 2, 3, 4, get my shoes and out the door. 5, I'm alive. 6, 7, 8, feeling great. 9, gonna shine, life is good. I'm doing fine. 10, gonna do it right and do it again, yeah.